Hi guys, Brian here with the Gun Shop, and today we're going to talk about knives, primarily locking mechanisms and what makes them good, what makes them bad, what makes them expensive, what makes them cheap, all different types out there, and we're going to go over them a little bit here. So I guess the first one we will go over is what they call a liner lock. Now this will be kind of hard for you guys to see, but a liner lock is a piece of steel nested inside of the handles, the liner, and it moves over, it's bent and like heat treated at the factory to kind of bend over into the bottom of the tang of the blade. So what that does is you push it out of the way and the blade can then move forward. As it comes back, that lock will kind of engage in it. These are fairly inexpensive locks. Most of your budget knives will have liner locks, like your really cheap, junk that you would get at the W place that we won't say the name. Those are almost all going to be liner locks. There are some good knives out there that have liner locks. Most of them are kind of that value price range. There's a handful of like really high-end ones that will use liner locks, but it's a hard lock to get right. It's a very easy one to mess up, but a very cheap one to make. Not the strongest of locks, but it is a quick, easy way to make a good pocket knife. So if you're getting something, for cutting envelopes and things like that, it's awesome. Cutting boxes, you're probably fine. If you're taking it camping, I'd recommend a different lock, but it is a very, very popular little locking. This is a Kershaw leak. This is a gentleman's little folder. So it works well on a knife like this. The next kind of lock we'll talk about is what they call a back lock. Now there's a couple different variants of these. Most of them work essentially the same way. You've got a bar on top here, and you push down on this bar, and that releases the blade. These tend to be very strong because you'll have to basically break these pins in order to break it. So you see a lot of camping knives like this, your old school buck knives your grandpa used to have. It'll have one of these. There's also some newer versions of it from like cold steel that we can get or we sometimes carry. And those are even stronger because they connect up here. You can even use that like a fixed blade. The downfall to these is they're not that fun to play with. Kind of hard to deploy. They're not going to flick out or spring out or anything like that. But very strong locks, very easy to make. Tend to be on the budget side. The third kind of lock is something you will see mainly on Spydercos. And so this is called a compression lock. It's very similar to what we talked about here in this Kershaw, but it's on the back. So it's like a liner lock on the back side of the knife. And the advantage to this is you can open and close it without ever having to cross the finger across where the blade would close. Normally you'd be doing this in front of the blade as it's closing. Here you can just close it without ever having to cross your finger. So it's actually a little safer and it's kind of fun to fidget with. You'll tend to see these basically on just Spydercos on a lot of their nicer knives. So you're usually in the $50 to $300 range for these guys. They're a lot more fun to fidget with. Just as strong as your liner lock, or maybe a little stronger because it's on the rear of the blade, but essentially it's about the same. And they're light. You don't have to worry about having big crazy mechanisms holding the knife together. So very popular knife from Spyderco, very popular lock design. The most popular that you will ever see on pretty much all of our favorite knives is your frame lock. So it's like a liner lock in that it's pushing over into the bottom of the blade here, except for it's utilizing the whole slide, or the whole side, rather, of the knife. What that gives you is a much bigger piece of steel or titanium up against the blade as it deploys and locks up. The other advantage to these is as you grip the knife, you're actually holding the lock in place. So there's no way for it to break free if you were prying on something or you're digging into whatever. If you're batoning with it, probably not. But for most everyday tasks, a frame lock is one of the most popular, one of the best locks you can get on a knife. Most of your higher end knives will be like this, like your kind of cool kid knives with titanium and good steel, like this guy here, the ZT. As you know, I like ZT. But a lot of these do have frame locks. These even have what they call a lock bar insert. So instead of it being titanium on steel, it's actually steel on steel. They got a little piece of steel in there to make it even stronger. Very popular knife design. Makes it easy to operate. You will see this on some cheaper ones too. It's an easy lock to get right. It's a hard lock to mess up, but a lot of the cheap ones, they can mess it up. So usually I recommend, get a little bit nicer knife, get something US made or something in one of the bigger countries. Cops driving by. But yeah, pretty awesome lock. One of my favorites. And the last one we're going to talk about today is something you get on a lot of your autos. So all you guys that like your side folding auto knives out there, this is called a button lock. Now what this does is it is a button. You push the button, it deploys. But the button actually has a pin that rotates and kind of pushes through the back of the knife here and engages into the back of the blade. And so when you push it and it kind of reaches that stopping point, it's wedging itself behind the blade there, making it lock up. The advantage to these is, A, you don't have to put your finger in front of the blade to disengage anything, so it is a little safer in that manner. The other advantage is it's easy to deploy, so it is a fun fidget knife. You will get these sometimes in non-autos too. You have button locks like on some Hogues that will carry. You can push that button and flick it out and flick it closed without actually having to ever cross the knife. They are fairly strong. I wouldn't say quite as strong as maybe a titanium frame lock, but it's up there. It's definitely stronger than a liner lock, probably on par with like a back lock. They tend to be a little more expensive though. You get them on these nicer, like this is a sprint run here of a ProTech, but you tend to get them on these cool kid knives, if you will. So yeah, that's a quick rundown of some of the basic locks. We'll cover some more here later on. We got people showing up already today, but yeah, come and check them out. I say for most people, get them in your hands, mess with them. A lot of people don't like certain locks, or they, you know, gravitate more to certain styles and certain things. And there's a big difference between looking at it online and feeling it in your hand. So come check them out, guys, and see the different types. And we'll see you guys later.